All right, Kansas City, good evening. This is Stephen St. John with another episode of Hot Mic with SSJ, and we're live this time on location at Chickie's and Pete's inside the Bally's casino here in pretty close to downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Not too far, about 5 minutes away from the northeast neighborhood where I grew up. Not too far away from downtown, and so we're right in the heart of Kansas City, Missouri. And if you're watching on YouTube or you're here live, you can see that my special guest tonight is Hall of Fame football coach Gary Pinkel is with us. Let's get a round of applause for Coach Gary Pinkel,
Thank
the
you.
all-time winningest coach at Toledo and, of course, at Mizzou. And, Coach, thanks a lot for coming in here. You're no stranger to Kansas City. You made many a recruiting trip here to Kansas City, Missouri. I know it was a big part of building your program, recruiting some great players out of Kansas City, in the Kansas City area, like Tony Temple and Chase Kaufman. We'll include T. Rucker up in St. Joe, but Brock Christopher and Andrew Jones, the list can go on. But so many great players that were here in Kansas City. And so first we'll just ask you how are you doing? How's life for Coach Gary Pinkel right now?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. I try to keep busy. I have a foundation we're going to talk about here a little bit. And it's football. I mean, every day I wake up, it's football. I mean, what better to be a retired coach, and I see football every single day of my life. So and my wife sometimes doesn't agree with that because it's a bit too much. But it's just a great time in the next 4 months for all levels of football around the country.
And speaking of football, great place to watch football here at Chickie's and Pete's. You know, they have live music at 5 p.m. every Friday, happy hour every day, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. And it's a great place to watch the Chiefs, the Royals, like you said, Monday night football, Thursday night football, Saturday football, Sunday, every day. They have a great place to watch UFC and any of the fights down here at Chickie's and Pete's, located inside Bally's Casino. And we got a good crowd here tonight. And don't forget, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I don't know how much you like seafood, Coach, but they have buy one, get one free snow crabs, and also during happy hour, half-price wings, pizzas, and shrimp, plus drink specials. And like I said, live music on Fridays. This is a great place to watch a Chiefs game because they have a live DJ, play music in the timeout, so they've got something going on the entire game. And what a great time to be a Chiefs fan. What a great time to be a college football fan in the area. But I want to ask you, let's just start off with the foundation. You mentioned that because that's the most important thing that you do right now with your time besides your family. And you've talked about what made you want to start a foundation. We've talked about that in the past, but for the podcast, for the people listening now, take me to that point where you said, okay, I'm done coaching, but now I want to do something that's very constructive with my time, and you started the GP Made Foundation, gpmade.org for more information. But tell me about why you wanted to start the foundation, why that was important to you.
Well, I think because I was driving my wife nuts, maybe. I had nothing else I was doing. But, one day I woke up. I mean, it was about a year and a half after I retired, and I was sitting in the kitchen. She looked at me and said, "You okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." She goes, "What's going on?" I says, "I miss my players." Now, I got to tell you this, my players drove me nuts, too. So, I mean, when I say that, it covers a lot of different levels. But I do miss my players and, helping them be better young men. It was more than winning football games, but you got to be able to do that. So that's kind of really why I got into that. And then, so let's start a foundation. And really our foundation is, first when we're talking about kids that have physical challenges. My brother and sister were on wheelchairs when they were 13 and 14. And so I'm very sensitive about all that for obvious reasons. And so what we're doing is try to help kids in our region, help them through those things and make it better for them. The next one that we do is obviously cancer. We're gonna put monies into cancer for kids, and we're winning that battle. So I tell people to keep doing that and those kind of things. And then the third one that we do, I've been in about every major city in this country. Recruiting. I've been in homes, and these kids this is where they were born. They have no choice, okay? I've been in homes, and I could tell you stories, and you would just not believe it. So one of our huge emphases in our program is to help these guys, these young men, be better young men, and also to get their degrees. And we have a scholarship programs associated with that also. So those three levels is what we put our monies in, and really excited about it. And we have a big golf tournament going on already for the last 5 years. It's going to be just like this here eventually in Columbia. So that's where it started. We want to move down here and help people that have these kind of issues, kids that have these kind of issues.
It's going to be very exciting because you have your first Kansas City edition of the GP Made Golf Tournament coming up on Monday, October 15th at Oakwood Country Club here in Kansas City. Shotgun start at noon, and so everything starts at 10:30 with the driving range opening up. There's going to be a buffet lunch. At noon, it says you're going to speak, and also Mark Fenner. You let him talk. Okay. You let that guy get in front of a microphone.
Actually, he's doing a great job. He really is. So.
He's a good friend of both of ours, but he's a big part of your foundation.
No question.
And so
no question.
You want, and I've known him for. We coached our kids together in flag football, and so he ever tell you how good of a coach he was?
Yeah. Every day.
I bet he does.
Every day.
But this is going to be great, and this is an opportunity for you. Again, I've talked about how much time you spent in Kansas City. Kansas City has to have a special place in your heart.
Yes.
So you get a chance to come and do this golf tournament here in Kansas City.
Yeah, so we started it obviously in Columbia. It's taken us 5 years. Now, this was what happened after we paid. We did this in May. We had our fifth tournament game. And after that day was done and we paid all our bills, we made over $200,000 at a golf tournament. And just the generosity of people and where we can take those monies and do those kind of things. And so that's been really, really important. And so Mark had a lot to do with this too. He loves Kansas City where he's from. Hey, why don't we kind of shift over and let's get this going the same way that we did it here in Columbia. Let's do it in Kansas City. And then when we get this done 3 or 4 years and we're helping kids and doing all this stuff, then we're going to try to get into St. Louis. So we have immediate goals, long-range goals, but all we're trying to do is we're trying to help kids. That's what the whole thing's about.
And if you are interested in a sponsorship and a team, a whole sponsorship to be involved, I mean, I'm sure that you're going to need volunteers out there. MRK Fenner, MRK Fenner, MRK Fenner at gmail.com, MRK Fenner at gmail.com. Or you can contact me at the radio station, Stephen St. John at 810WHB.com, because Mark brought me on as one of the I'm on the board, the committee for the golf tournament, so I'm trying to help some things out here in Kansas City. And so if you have any questions about how you can be involved, either contact Mark or contact me at the radio station, Stephen St. John at 810WHB.com, and I'll get you the information that you need. Okay, so let's go back. I want to, I've interviewed you so many times, but I haven't talked too much about like your life before you became a coach. You were a hell of a football player, and you played at Kent State, and you had a teammate by the name of Nick Saban.
Yeah, who's Nick Saban?
Yeah, right. And also Jack Lambert.
A guy named Jack Lambert.
And so there's some names there. So take me back to Gary Pinkel, the high school football player.
Well, I've been lucky my whole life. I had a great high school football coach in Akron, Ohio. We won the only championship in the history of the school when I was there. Not because of me. It's because our coaches and what were around. And then I decided to go to Kent State University, and right after the May 4th shootings, so that was a very difficult time to be there.
Oh, wow.
But this guy named Don James comes in, and everything changed when Coach James said, we were there 1 year, and then all of a sudden he's in, and he's building a program here, and he did a remarkable job. I played tight end. He just changed absolutely everything. I think he was a huge influence for Nick and I. Would ever think that we would work for him and that we would learn football and coaching from him, but just kind of the way it went and how it worked out.
And so you're there at Kent State, and Nick Saban is your teammate. Mm-hmm. Was there an indication? Did you look at that guy and think, oh yeah, he's a future football coach? Even back then?
Yeah. See, what happened was we were he was a year older than me, so we started graduate school. Then I started the next year. We were going to become graduate assistants because Don James goes to Nick and say, hey, do you want to try this out? And he's going to go home and work with his father, on a car show thing. And so he did the same thing with me. A year later, he says, you want to be a part of this? And so, Nick and I remember, the scout team, we're having all the freshmen we had to watch for academics and make sure they were doing all the right things. And then, obviously we're going to graduate school, but most important thing at the time we're coaching. So how did this happen? It just happened. And, Nick Saban's done pretty good. I don't know if there'll ever be a better football coach than him ever in the history of college football. And I did okay too. So, Coach James had huge influence on us. Nick did not work for him very often. I worked for Coach James. I was for 11 years at University of Washington. Went to 11 bowls, 12 years, 3 Rose Bowls. They won the national championship the year after I left. And so, anyway, huge influence on Nick and I was Don James.
Okay, so now you can blame Mark for this. Mark said that you've got a great Jack Lambert story. Is there any?
Oh, there's a lot of great Jack Lambert stories.
If you got anything about Jack Lambert,
but he's a pretty tough dude, so I think I gotta watch myself here.
But I mean, he must have been incredible in college.
He really was. There's so many stories. I remember one time when we both tried out with him. He was second round draft choice for the Steelers.
Oh, here comes Mark.
Oh, okay. I thought it didn't matter, so I didn't. Okay.
Oh no, he's
okay.
Mark.
I got you.
Yeah,
okay.
Mark's
I got you. I got you, Mark.
Right.
He's a producer. I apologize.
See?
I apologize.
So where he became a linebacker, he became Jack Lambert.
Yeah. Well, so what happened was he was playing defensive end. Okay, we're in our second year there. We're going to have a good team. We really think we're going to have a good team. And so he's playing defensive end, and his name's Jack Lambert. He's 6'5", 205 pounds, 203 pounds. He was just tall and obviously a good athlete too. And then what happened was he ended up. What was going on is that our middle linebacker. I'm sorry here. My middle linebacker that we had came in a transfer in from Buffalo, and he was a great player. He all of a sudden quits one day. He's out of there. I'm out of here. He quits.
I'm done.
And we're all sitting around going, what's going to go on? What's going to go on? Well, Don James says we're going to take this in their staff meeting, said we're going to move that Lambert skinny guy. Let's move him to middle linebacker. If he'd have stayed at defensive end, he'd have been a 4th-round draft pick. And he went to middle linebacker, obviously was a 1st-round draft pick. And it's just funny how that whole thing played out.
When your coach said that, were you surprised? Like, this guy's going to be the middle linebacker?
Yeah, well, we were wonder if he could play middle linebacker. But obviously, he did pretty good. And so, the linebacker that left, he did okay too. He went to work with Mick Jagger's bodyguard.
Oh wow!
Or the Rolling Stones, lots of years ago. But that's a true story.
That's a pretty good gig back then, though.
He did okay too himself. So I just want you to know that it's a pretty remarkable story.
Well, if you're going to give me a reason why to quit playing football at Kent State, becoming Mick Jagger's bodyguard with the Rolling Stones is a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take that. Okay, so that's the Jack Lambert story. So another story that I was going to ask you about is getting back in. By the way, Nick Saban, are you surprised? Once he retired, he became such a media star that he's all over the media and doing this stuff. Did you think he might just take some time away, or does that surprise you that he's college game day? He's doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, when you're coaching, your mind's like this. I mean, you're not trying to be funny. You just kind of do what you do. And here he's he's an entertainer. He's a good guy. He always was a good friend. And so you're seeing a side that a lot of us have seen, but not very much. When you're in our business, with the players, coaches, all the stuff, scrutiny that goes on, he's obviously, but he will go down as the greatest football coach ever in the history of college football. And if somebody passes him someday, I probably won't be here when that happens. Good for them if they can do it.
Okay, so the story I was told, and you can guess who told me this, is when you took over for Nick Saban at Toledo. Mm-hmm. He maybe didn't like the way you changed things to the Don James way, and maybe you guys were yelling at each other in the kitchen somewhere at some point. He was angry about it.
Yeah, well, he was a little angry about it at the end of the day. So Nick was always with me. He's always trying to make things better. And what happened also was I had a chance to go from Toledo to become the head coach at Missouri.
Right.
And we just won a championship and everything else. And Nick calls me up, and I can't tell you what he said to me. He had some opinions on that, whether I wanted them or not.
He thought you were crazy.
Oh, I know. He thought I was absolutely crazy. And you know what? After my first 4 years at Missouri, I think I was crazy. I mean, how difficult it was to turn this around. It was so difficult. But I surrounded myself with a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches and a lot of great people, and we stuck together and battled through, and then finally got a chance to turn it. But that was, that's kind of it's a tough job and it's hard to win. But he also was a friend, and he wanted to, if you really want that bad, when I get done talking to you, if you want, because he got after me a little bit, know.
Right.
And later on, he said, I did that because I care about you. But anyway, fortunate that it turned out well, and again, it's not about me. It's about my players. It's about my coaches. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. I went in the College Football Hall of Fame, and that's not about. It's about all the other people. I'm just trying to steer the ship in the right direction.
But you were at Toledo for a long time, as I mentioned earlier. You're the all-time winningest coach at Toledo, and you could have taken other jobs before Missouri. And then you decided to go to Missouri, and you said maybe some people said you're crazy for going there. So what was it that convinced you, like, okay, I'm going to leave Toledo after all this time where I've got things up and running, and I'm going to go to a different job, and it's going to be Missouri? What convinced you?
Well, so a lot of coaches, when they talk back in the day, were talking about Missouri. You'd sit there and say, well, you got St. Louis, you got Kansas City. You're right in the middle of state with a great academic institution, and you can't win any games. And everybody's looking at each other, and again, that's something that I had to make a decision whether I wanted to do it or not. But I really believed in our program because it worked for Don James, it worked for me, starting to work for Nick, and so let's transfer in and see if we can get it going at Missouri. And so that's why I decided to go on it. And I think my coaches, when I told them, they had a kind of I remember in a staff meeting, they kind of had a. Are you sure you know what you're doing here? They were being polite, okay? But at the end of the day, they all came with me, and we all suffered through the first couple of years, and then we took off, and it was quite a run, and very proud to be a Missouri Tiger.
Anytime we hear you talk about your career, you always reference Don James, and he was such an influence on you. And I remember when you first took over from Missouri, you talk about the system, the process you learned from Don James. You were going to stick with it because it worked, and you kept your staff together, and your staff was loyal to you. You were loyal to your staff. What was it about Don James that made him such a great coach, where he had such an influence on you, and you were able to take what you learned from him and become a Hall of Fame coach?
And the same thing for Nick Saban. I mean, what he's did the same thing. We played for him at a place that doesn't win many games, and he decided he was going to take the job. We talked about this at Kent State. And he's just a different guy. You talk about attention to detail, demanding excellence. You talk about how we lifted weights. You talked about how we get up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to do running drills in 3 different stations where most of the guys wanted to quit. And he said, quit, get out of here if you don't want to be here. And so there's a method to his madness and everything he did. But he just has, as Nick has, and I think I certainly can speak for myself, I ran that program. And you know why? Because the program works. What a lot of people do is they kind of go in and take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I didn't need to do that because I know from a player perspective, assistant coach's perspective, I was a coordinator with Coach James at Washington. We talked about for about 8 years. So anyway, what a blessing he was, and I'm very proud of Nick Saban too for being in a really tough league for many years and doing such great things that he did for college football.
And something else that, you mentioned you were an offensive coordinator with Don James, but one of the things that stands out about your career and something you said, and I remember you said this early on when you took over at Missouri, I'm always going to have a quarterback. Yeah. Like, you knew how to evaluate quarterbacks. And if you look at the wide range of types of quarterbacks, everything from Brad Smith to Chase Daniel to Blaine Gabbert to James Franklin, Matty Mock, and Drew Lock.
We had 3 of those guys played for me at Washington and played in the NFL too.
Right, I learned from Mark Brunell.
Okay, yeah. yes. So a guy named Ray Dorr was the quarterback coach at Kent State when I was a player there, and eventually I went to Washington and was part of the staff, and so Ray Dorr was the quarterback coach, and I watched him coach. When I'm coaching receivers, I'm watching everything he does in staff rooms. I'm watching how he handles players. I was critiquing and coaching. And so that I hoped one day when he got a job that I had an opportunity to become the quarterback coach. And so that's kind of what happened. And I go back to him as being a catalyst, a guy that I think was second to none. And I learned from him. apply those things. And I remember when I got the job at Missouri, I'm at a press conference, and the guy says to me, he says, are you gonna how are you gonna be the quarterbacks? And I looked at the guy. Didn't sarcastically. I looked at him and I said, we will always have a good quarterback. And the guy looked at me, and he said, excuse me, coach? I said, we will always have a good quarterback. And everybody started taking notes on down like this. And I just felt confidence because I don't have a list of them here with me. I got all these guys at Washington, and even at Toledo, and certainly at Mizzou. We've had a bunch that played in the NFL. And, I guess I was just lucky at picking those things out. So
look, that's a great story for me because that was one of the first big press conferences that I covered in my radio career was when you got hired. And I remember you saying that, and that was the big talking point that everyone wanted.
But it wasn't sarcastic either.
No, but
it wasn't like pat my back or anything. It was just simple.
Oh, I remember Mike Alden introduced you as a recruiting machine, and then you said that, and that's what everyone started talking about. And then you went table to table to do interviews, and we brought you over, and it was me and Corby Jones, and we sat down and talked to you. And until that point, Corby Jones had been the star quarterback
great guy.
at Mizzou. But I'll never forget that, and because that's what a lot of people talked about. But you followed through on it, and you didn't miss on any of those quarterbacks. And so I'm just curious for like any coach that's out there listening, or even it's a high school coach, anyone that coaches quarterbacks, is there something? Because as I mentioned, those are different style quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Is there something that you see when you were out recruiting quarterbacks? Was there a common trait? Or something that you saw where you knew, like, okay, I like this kid. This kid will fit. Besides the physical traits, was there just some kind of X factor that you saw in quarterbacks that made you believe, okay, he'll be successful. He has what it takes to work in my system?
Yeah, I would go home visits, before a player. Let's say we're recruiting a kid out of Detroit. I'd go on the home visits. Now I've seen him on film. But I had to come away after spending an hour and a half in his home, or whether he's on his visit, and I just got to ask him questions, and I got to get a good feel. I feel that this guy's got the it factor. And what's the it factor? It's all these components that you're built on, that you have to be good at everything you do at the quarterback position, and I'm not saying it because I'm being sarcastic or anything, or that I'm patting myself on the back, but that's, at the end of the day, I had to do that. So we never recruited a quarterback until I went in and made sure I got to spend 45 minutes with a guy, have him talk to me about things, a lot of those things. And so that seemed to work out well for me in my career.
Was there anything that a quarterback would say or you would see that would immediately turn you off? Like, you know what, he's talented, but I'm not going to recruit him. Anything that
No, I think a little bit more, someone that doesn't take it real serious. I mean, they're, kind of giddy about it, and I'm a pretty good quarterback and that kind of thing. Well, I'm not a giddy guy, so don't ask other people what I'm like. I'm not very good. So
yeah, giddy.
Giddy. You know what I'm saying. I just was. Anyway, we made pretty good decisions, and we have had a lot of great quarterbacks.
So we're here with Coach Gary Pinkel at Chickie's and Pete's inside of Bally's Casino in Kansas City, Missouri. And so now when I ask you about what you're doing now, which is really interesting and really exciting, and I've touched on this with you just a little bit in the past, but now that the season started, I'd like to know. And so if you're wondering why we're not talking too much or at all about the 2024 Missouri team, well, because I don't want to get Coach in trouble, because Coach, for people that don't know, you're on the college football playoff committee.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, and first of all, what an honor, because you get selected to this in a year where it's expanded to 12 teams. And man, don't you wish it was at 12 teams a couple of times when you were coaching?
Yeah.
You'd have been in that thing, right? But I'm looking at some of the names here. Mike Riley and Will Shields, a Hall of Fame offensive lineman that played right here for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's on the committee. And so how did this come about?
I got a call about I don't know. I think it was right like the beginning of February. I got a call, and it was Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC. And the short period of time we were in the SEC, we accomplished some goals there. We did some good things that a lot of people didn't think we could do. And he just told me about this. It's about and asked me if I'd be interested. So he kind of told me about what it is. I heard about it. It's a 3-year commitment. We're going to have there'll be 13 total voters in there. And that's our job is to pick. We went from 4 teams to 12 teams, and it's our job to pick those players that are the teams that are the very, very best. And so I'm real excited about it. And it's a difficult, hard job because you got no stones unturned. You got to really work hard, which we all have. And but I'm certainly honored.
What's this process like? So, you can't watch all the games on Saturday. They send you game film, you research. Like, what's the process?
Yeah, I can't really talk about the process.
Okay.
All I can say is, we try to study all these teams and try to get it right.
Knowing you put a lot into it. You take this very seriously.
Oh, yeah, and everybody does. It's so well run. The operation is so, I remember going to the first meetings that we had right there, and it was a couple months ago, and I walked away and said, wow, these guys are really incredible. So we have the right people doing the right things. It's going to be great for college football, and I think it's going to be really, really fun, and we'll see where it goes.
And so I've asked you this before. Can you imagine, maybe you don't want to imagine, what it would have been like had you had to deal with the transfer portal when you were coaching? You see these coaches having to deal with this every year, and it's not only recruiting players into your program, but you almost have to re-recruit your own players every single year. And
maybe every single day sometimes.
Right. Is that could you have existed with that, or do you think it would have turned you away from coaching?
I don't know. I think I think they're trying to get it right. At the end of the day, they're trying to do it and do a good job. But for me, I look at all those players. First thing, you don't hear anything about your college education. You don't hear about the football team saying we graduate 93% of our players. You don't hear a word about that. I think it's a little bit like the NFL. Okay, I think that's maybe kind of what we'll go to, that type thing maybe down the road, because you have to do all the things that they do. So anyway, it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to doing my job and getting things done.
Coach Gary Pinkel is our guest. And, Coach, something else that I think is really interesting also is just, the relationship you still have with a lot of your former players through your foundation and, the people that you've met at your time here, in Missouri. Tell me a little bit about that, how the way you look at your former players, not just as players, but really a part of your family.
Yeah, part of the family. That's my greatest gift is having all these players being a part of their life and them being a part of my life, and the responsibility to help them be better young men. And what I say to people, I tell my players, I get a text or a phone call or a thing, the last thing I'll say to them is say, thanks for all you did for me and all the things you did for Mizzou. I do that every time I send a text back. Because they got to understand, this isn't about Gary Pinkel being Magic Man here. It's about all these great kids that we had around it that wanted to learn, wanted to graduate from college, wanted to be leaders, and all those things were part of who our football program was.
Okay, this is one of my favorite stories. We're gonna wrap up with just a couple of more, but this is the story I wanted you to tell. And you've told this before, but I still get a kick out of this. So take me back to when you found out that you were elected into the College Football Hall of Fame. You didn't quite believe it, and you thought that maybe some of your friends were playing a trick on you. Yeah. And you were take me back to that day when you found out. You were. Well,
I went. My wife and I got back. Missy and I got back, and I ran out because I saw a package out on the front door. So I went and got the package. I opened the package up, and there's an envelope in here, and an envelope that I opened up and I'm looking at, and it said, out of so many coaches that coach, they gave the percentage that make it to this point, and da 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 da. And I'm looking at it, and I just got tears in my eyes. I'm just telling you, it was more than tears. And I'm looking at it going, I couldn't even believe it. And I said, Missy went and got a shower. So she's in taking a shower. I ran in there in the shower, and she goes, she thought something bad happened because I was crying. And she goes, you okay? I said, read this to me. and it said, welcome to the Hall of Fame. And I was over. I never thought in a million years I would ever go to the Hall of Fame. Never even thought about it. It really didn't. It wasn't a big deal. But anyway, again, thank you to all my coaches, all my players, all the administrators, for everybody. A lot of people are a part of that.
Yeah.
And I got to make sure that they all understand that.
But what did you tell your friends if they were joking with you, if this was a joke? You threatened to do something pretty extreme to their car. I think.
Yeah, I was going to throw bricks at their car.
Yeah, or something.
My friends, I said, if you guys mess around with this, and I found out you messing me over, this is a ha-ha, Gary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get these bricks, and I'm going after every one of you.
Yeah. But you know what? It was true.
But I'm not that bad of a person.
No, but now you're in the Hall of Fame.
What?
So, so it was true. One thing I wanted to ask you before our time ends, you're such a guru of quarterbacks, and you could spot talent, and you've been able to develop quarterbacks. What do you think of this kid they got playing at Arrowhead Stadium, Patrick Mahomes?
I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, right?
He's incredible.
Have you ever seen anything? Honestly.
Never.
The total package of what he's done so far, have you ever seen anything like that?
I remember the first or second year he started, and who we were playing, and he was on the hash, and he dropped back, and he threw a ball about 25 yards downfield, an out route, without looking there at all.
Yeah.
I'm watching it thing, and it goes like this. I jump up, I look at my wife, Missy, I said, "You can't do what he just did." She goes, "What do you mean?" You can't do what he just, and that's what he did. He got up and he actually, he's incredible. He's the great thing about him too. He's a great leader. He's a great person. He's got all these these great things about him, but he certainly is he's the answer to what a great quarterback is. That's Patrick Mahomes, and I just feel lucky that we get to have him on our team.
And you go to Arrowhead. You've gone to the Super Bowl to watch him. You've
had
a front row seat for all this. All right, Coach. Let's tell people again before we end the podcast about the wonderful event you've got coming up, the GP Made Par 3 KC. It's the inaugural Par 3 tournament in Kansas City, Missouri, coming up on Monday, October 14th. Shotgun start at 12 p.m. It's at Oakwood Country Club. For more information, you can email Mark Fenner, MRKFenner @gmail.com, or email me, Stephen St. John at 810WHB.com if you're interested in playing or for a sponsorship, and it's to benefit your GP Made Foundation. Again, tell people why they should take part in this, come out and play, or sponsor, and why this is such an important cause for you.
Well, because we're helping kids. It's all the money goes to the right places, and I can tell you that happened and give you my word that's going to be done. And we're making a difference, okay? And you don't have to give us thousands and thousands. Maybe you're going to just have a little bit, but every bit counts. But you just got to trust me that this is really important for us to help youth in Kansas City. We're seeing it happen now. In where we're at there, and then we're also in St. Louis. We're going to eventually get it there. But Columbia, we're doing the great things too.
Hitting St. Louis, hitting Columbia, now hitting Kansas City. And again, for more information about Coach's Foundation, go to gpmade.org with all the information there. Coach, thank you so much. I'm thrilled that you came to Kansas City and you were a guest on the Hot Mic with SSJ. Hopefully you'll be a guest again sometime soon, and can't wait to take part in the golf tournament with you and raise some money for your foundation. And thank you and everybody, Mark Fenner, and everybody here for being here and being a part of it. Thank you. God bless. That's Coach Gary Pinkel. And again, I want to remind people that we're at Chickies and Pete's inside Bally's Casino. Live music at 5 p.m. every Friday. Happy hour, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6. It's a great location to watch all the games. And for me, it's going to be a great location to eat some lobster pizza right now at Chickies and Pete's. That's Gary Pinkel. I'm Stephen St. John. Until next episode, the microphone is off.
He is one of only 3 coaches in Division I history to be the winningest coach at 2 different institutions. From the University of Toledo and the University of Missouri, Coach Gary Pinkel.
Gary Pinkel, the SEC Coach of the Year.
We talked about the rebuilding of Gary Pinkel first did at Toledo, which then springboarded him obviously to this job and got to the SEC. Nobody gave him a chance, and all they've done in their first 3 years is win the SEC East the last 2 of them.
Gary Pinkel has been a big supporter of Love Columbia. As a coach of many football players, he's seen young people come from diverse backgrounds and just understands the value of just giving extra support to some individuals who just haven't had all the advantages that other people have had. Through the GP Made Foundation, made a significant contribution to the capital campaign that provided our downtown property. Also, through the foundation, decorated a room for children to have their own special space here. We've been able to help nearly 100 kids have beds because of just funds that the Gary Pinkel Foundation has supported.
United Community Builders was formed in 2009 by a group of concerned citizens, and what I do is focus on helping us build and release capable people. We were in the need a few years ago of a new van. The old van was not making it. It was 100 degrees in the summer and the air was just making it 99 degrees. And so Coach Pinkel and his wife came by and visited us, saw the children, saw the work that we were doing, and unbeknownst to us, they surprised us and helped us underwrite a brand new van. Long story short, Coach came in and said, I want to be a part of this vision, and they donated $30,000 to our capital campaign. He's a leader of men, but he has a heart of gold when it comes to children.
I'm in charge of scholarships, and that's been the major time that I've committed. We don't strictly go on a GPA. We just want to make sure that they've shown a commitment, that they can put in the work to get that job done, to get that degree. It's a 4-year, $2,000 a year scholarship for $8,000, and it really does make a difference for these kids.
Our youngest son, Henry, has a diagnosis called kernicterus. Basically, what that means is that his jaundice got too high and crossed the blood-brain barrier. When that happened, that caused cerebral palsy for him. Henry sees all facets of therapy, so he does speech therapy, he does OT, which is occupational therapy, and physical therapy. It is amazing that here at the Special Learning Center, he can have not only his schooling, he does daycare, and then we can also have therapy worked into his day. My husband Ted and I work, and that just makes it very easy for us to be able to bring him here, but know that he's getting the best care that he could possibly get. GP Made have donated quite a bit to the Special Learning Center, one of which is the school bus. I know Henry gets to go on a lot of field trips because of that. They also donated toys and equipment into the daycare classroom. They are also donating some money to the new building, which we are so excited that the Special Learning Center is getting the opportunity to expand and grow.
The foundation basically has, 3 pillars we call pillars. One of the pillars is kids with leukemia or lymphoma. And certainly research is hugely important in that area, because at the end of the day, we're winning the battle against cancer, and we're winning the battle and helping these kids. But when you're giving it for research, you should feel so good inside, because you're making a difference. It's going to get better. And so that's where our emphasis is in the 2 cancers that kids have, and that's one of the pillars. Another one is kids that have physical challenges. We talked earlier about my brother and sister in wheelchairs, and so I'm very, very sensitive to that. And the third pillar is I've been in almost every major city in this nation over the last 40 years, and I've been in homes, all kinds of homes. Homes where kids have everything and homes where kids have nothing. I also know that we can make a huge impact on a young man if he comes into our program. Obviously, he wants to graduate, want to be a great football player, and get committed. But we can help change his life. So that's what we're doing with this other pillar. Education's hugely important. The ability to help the kids transfer over into their personal life what they've learned as a football player, competing. When you get up, you get knocked down, you brush yourself off, and you keep going. You're relentless in your pursuit of your goals and things that you want to do. And I would challenge our players. You want to live a different life? You can do it, and I'm going to help you do it, and we're going to help you do it. So that's what that other pillar is. I get excited talking about it, but we're making a difference every day. From Mizzou Made to GP Made, it's all about changing lives and making a difference every day. In 40 years of coaching and throughout my life, I've always believed God gives us the ability to make things better, to make us better. GP Made Foundation's mission is to offer children and youth a chance to be better, to make a positive change in their life for a better future.